Howdy YouTube folks, hopefully you can hear me here. I am bringing you another video from Spirit Wolf. You know, as always, the intro. So, anyways, let's get into this video. So, what I wanted to talk about in this video, and I thought it'd be a good thing to talk about for anyone who's into homesteading like I want to do, and how you can never have too many books on it. So I guess the best way you could put it is subcategory to everything. And let's get into the start with these vegetation first, and then we'll move on to this stuff that's kind of just a general thing, like fun things to read. Some of these are old ones I've had for a while that probably wouldn't count so much for today because one of them's from like 2010. So it's a cool look back, but not something you can still find the modern ones of this from 2010. But anyways, so for starters, I really like this. This is an older book. I think if you can find older books like these, this one's I believe 1971. Let me see here. I read the date and I thought it said 1971 on it. Nope, 1975. So that's not necessarily when it was printed, for say I've been told in the past about books, but anyways, that's around about when. I think this is a really good book right here. It's called The Color Guide to Familiar Mushrooms and Fungi, over 150 illustrations. And you're probably thinking, for most, homesteaders, for forager, this actually helps a lot for homesteaders too, because if you want mushrooms, you add mushrooms in your diet, you like mushrooms, this is the book to have. I know some people aren't crazy about them because it gives you the ones that are edible and non-edible in the woods if you come across them. And so this is definitely a good read. So I highly recommend if you find one of these, and it is made by Octopus Illustrations, and the author's name is right here, and I could be pronouncing this pronouncing this wrong, but I believe it's Mirako Sirvik. I'm not a real known on Russian. I believe this to be Russian, but I could be wrong about that too. By Dr. Mirko Sirvik. And so I think this is a must-have in your collection as far as vegetation. The next one I want to go over, if you can find anything like this just happens to be the one that I found. I think anyone should have in their staple in their collection of books on homesteading is this one is an Agricultural for Beginners by Burkett, Stevens, and Hill Book Company. The Gin Company is books. And so I think this is a real good book. I forget when it's made. I thought there was a this one is rougher condition because it's as you can tell, it's been scribbled in and stuff, like most of these are mine, but no matter what, these are pretty good books to have. Oh, here we go. It kind of goes over the contents in here, but I won't really give it too far away. I was just trying to find out the date, but if I remember right, I read this one was made in like the 1900s, somewhere on here, but I can't seem to find it, so I could be wrong about that. Maybe I looked it up on the internet. Anyways, I think older books like this are a must-have because I believe that farmers back in the olden days really knew what they were doing because they were closer to the land and there was less equipment that made the job easier like we have today. Like a lot of the modern equipment seems to be, at least according to some, more efficient. And as far as how advanced it is, I think these is the way to go, especially if you're trying to do a small farm operation homestead, because books like these will get you more to the land because of the lack of equipment they had back then, and most everything was horse-drawn at these times. If this is 1900s, I forget. I'm pretty sure I looked it up and found that. But anyways, if you can find one of those, great. If you can't, so be it. And another staple in farming that you'll want to get into is fruits and berries. So I think that this is a... Excuse me, I had to blow my nose. Sorry about that. I think this is a staple book in your collection. And this is something you're going to want. You can get these at, I think, just about every nursery. I believe I got... I believe it was either this white one or this one. I think it might have been this one I picked up at Gardener's Supply, I believe it is the name of it. Yeah, the Gardener's Supply, that's it. I was trying to think for a minute where I got it. Yeah, someday if I'm near that Gardener's Supply, I'll have to do a filming of it. They got this really cool old Dodge truck from the 40s. I want to say 1940s with a flatbed, and it's dressed up in their colors, and they got a couple of cool old tractors. This one is copyright 1992. This is actually not the one I got at Tractor Supply. I think this is the one I found at Dump. Correction, this might be the one. I felt like I got one of these recently at Tractor Supply. I could be wrong there too. These might not be the ones. I had some I got from Tractor Supply, I should say. No, these are not the ones. These are the ones I found at the dump. I think this one might be my grandmother's, but the other one I found at the dump. But still, basically the same thing, just different era, different style, both by Lewis Hill. I just happen to have 2 copies of them. Must-haves. I think these are must-haves if you're going to make your homestead profitable, which I plan on doing, is having this stuff. Because you can't go wrong with fruits and vegetables, both having fruit trees and orchard and like a fruit grove type deal / fruit grove type deal, and a berry patch. Berries are always sellable, and as I've noticed in trend is nowadays it's a pick your own thing, as before, a lot of people used to pick the berries and you just didn't know if it was going to be smushed unless you walk into a supermarket. Of course, those are already picked for you, but I see the trend now is pick your own, and I believe around my area the max I've seen berries pick your own sell for is like $2, and that's buying the carton, and that's a really good thing to get into if you can. It might vary from where you live, the area, so do look into your price guides of your area, and kind of, it helps to visit places like nurseries and stuff to see what they're selling them for, so you know what to do. But really a good market to get into, and that's what I plan on doing too, because I know it's a niche, and if you have strawberries, blueberries, and raspberries, all 3, and then there's also some hybrid berries. It's just the way to go, getting into all the varieties, so you have variety. And also, I will say grapes too, as a tip, is a way to go as well. I'm trying to do that too, because you can just sell grapes for people to eat. Heck, table grapes. Wine grapes, you can sell to a winery. I know a guy that from the winery I've been working at in the past who would grow wine grapes, a certain variety of wine grapes that they didn't grow down at the winery that I was working at in the past, and out in the fields, and we would help him unload them, and he would just bring droves of it, and he actually lives not that far from my house. So that is definitely something to keep in mind when you're things like that you can sell on to someone else. And he, like I said, he would deliver them to the winery, so just keep that in mind as well. I will give you that as a helpful tip for plants. pets and such. But anyways, here's another book. It's called Approved, Practical, and Sheep Production. I was at one time thinking about getting into sheep. I've hung on to this book because I do like reading it, but I don't know if I'll get into sheep anytime soon. I'm thinking about goats. I definitely want chickens and pigs. Yes, you can make more money at beef, but because of the piece of land I have is only 11.9 acres, I'm trying to do a small farm aspect with what I have, and maybe someday if I make enough money and I could approach my neighbors and see if they, certain neighbors, and see if they would sell. One is an older person who might actually surprisingly sell, even though their house is over there, just because sometimes older people don't mind selling. If it is, who knows, if that ever happens, I would try it. But like I said, sometimes they will, because it's just too much to upkeep a house as you get older. But maybe they won't, but I would like to approach and try it, because it was originally part of this property at one time, way before I was born, when the true original owners of my family ancestry lived here. But anyways, another book is Keeping Livestock Healthy, a Veterinary Guide. You should always know this, because I believe where a lot of homesteaders pay extra to have a veterinary come into their farm when they could go and get all the proper licensings to be a veterinarian. And I know a woman from high school who was a teacher of mine, who I helped out on her, I believe it was a goat farming operation, and she had the veterinary skills and the licensing, and so it can be done. And I think it's something that you should get to be yourself, because when you're on a homestead, especially if you're going to do it for profit, you need to budget yourself and make sure that your homestead is not losing money. And sometimes with the vet costs and all that, it can really add up. And I know some farmers don't like to do it, and it's not for everyone, but I highly recommend doing it. And let's get into, here's another book on veterinary as well. It's called Veterinary Guide for Farmers by Stan Birch of Windsor Press Corporation, which is just basically the company that did it. This one's from 1950. I believe this one is from the 1980s. It was made by, you may not see many of these unless you live in Vermont, because it was made by a local pressing, but this one was done in 78, so yeah. Another book, when was this one done? I guess, yeah, just to kind of give you an idea, and these came all from the same person that I noticed, because they wrote their name in it, which I'll try not to show because out of respect, but I believe this one is from the 70s. Or no, 85 it says marked in there, but it's most likely 70s by the looks for these other two, the sheep and the red book. But anyways, another book is this one. It's called Feeds and Feeding Abridged, Morrison, by the 7th edition. And this book was done in, usually they give you a date, 1948. And these books are really the books to have, because, excuse the noise, these are really books to have because they're really helpful as well. Again, here's a really helpful book right here as well. It's called Anatomy and Physics